Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Deborah C. Miller joining us again, our life coach, professional organizer from Life Organizer Coach. That's the name of the company, the name of the website. All you got to do is search that, lifeorganizercoach.com. We are joined once again here by her to talk more about the work she does. She has an amazing grab and go system, and she's taught me a lot along the way, and I know she's going to teach you too. Welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. It's a
Oh,
rainy day here.
and where are you based out of?
I'm in Westfield, Indiana.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, rainy day, New York as well. Well, great to have you back. I feel like, spring is in the air. A lot of us talking more about organizing and cleanup. And I know you're all about organization. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
I help people get ready and prepared for everyday emergencies, and that means helping them get their documentation and their important paperwork all organized so that it's ready in an emergency.
Perfect. And you also provide workshops, right, to teach people how to use the system. And again, just a little bit of your background. What brought you into doing this? Could you share your own experience?
Yes, I had my husband was in the hospital for 2.5 months and in a different city from where I was. So it was really hard for me to manage my household being that far away. And I wasn't organized. So I spent when he got back, we spent about 4 months working through all the important pieces and developed my system. So the Life Organizer Coach came about from that. And I do a lot of work with different organizations that help with disaster preparedness and emergency planning. So it just seemed like the right thing to do.
Here you are now helping so many with your programs. And for today's show, I know you want to make sure there's 5 in particular documents that everyone should have. So let's get started.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint. I think it'll help keep me on track. And come on, let's get it up here. Okay. So that's me, Deb Miller, life.coach at lifeorganizercoach.com. The phone number is 317-399-9905. And so one of the things that is really important for people to realize is that every year there are 35 million injury-related emergency room visits. Think about that. 35 million people go to the emergency room, and 16.2 of those 35 million end up in a hospital or in an ICU unit. So having all of your information together when you go to the hospital or getting prepared to stay in the hospital is really important. And as you know, I work with caregivers who are dealing with family members. We call them multi-generational caregivers, but not just them. But, those folks have a real sense of being overwhelmed and frustrated by the amount of paperwork that they need to have. And anxiety and stress are really, really high for a lot of those people. And most people just don't know where to start. And so one of the things that I wanted to do is let you know about some paperwork that is really critical for everybody to have. So first of all, I'm not an attorney. This is information for informational purposes only. It's up to you to use it or not. Just wanted to let you know that disclaimer up front. So one of the first things that I recommend people do is put their emergency information on their refrigerator. So just write down the name, the address, the relationship, the phone number, the mobile phone number, and an email of the person that if you're in an emergency situation that somebody can call. So we call that an ICE, in case of emergency. And if you put it on your refrigerator, the EMTs and paramedic, oh my gosh, all know to call that number.
Always good to have. And I could suggest, I like when things are laminated, or you can even make that into a magnet. You could bring it to the local CVS, they or Staples, they can laminate it for you and make it into a magnet, which is even better.
Oh, absolutely. That's a great idea. But having it, oh my gosh, having it on your refrigerator is important
Mhm.
because that's one place where EMS will look. Mm.
Perfect. Good to know. We got that. And again, we're with Life Organizer Coach here. Common sense ideas for living prepared. Deborah Miller joining us. Take a break, take some water if you need. We're good. Go ahead.
We're okay. All right. So there's 5 documents that every family needs to have. The first one is guardianship documents. So if you have kids, or you've adopted kids, or you have grandchildren that live with you, you really need to have those guardianship documents available.
Okay.
Because if you go to the hospital, they're not going to listen to you if they're not your natural children. So having guardianship information, it could be a child with special needs who is an adult as well. But having those guardianship documentation is really important. The next thing you need to have is a last will and testament. Now, people will say, well, I don't have anything to give away, but you do. You have personal effects, you have credit cards, you have bills, you have all of that kind of information. You may have some, a car or whatever. So having a last will, even for someone who's in their 20s or 30s, is really important. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, and it doesn't have to be very complicated. There are online services like willandtrust.com or Legal Shield, or there's a whole bunch of other ones. Nolo, I think, has another service. Basically, you just need to have a last will so that the disposition of your property is handled.
Okay.
And then the other thing is a living will. Sometimes they call those an advance directive.
Mm-hmm.
And what that does is it lets the doctors know your thoughts about end of life. So, do you want to be on a ventilator? Do you want them to do everything in their power to save you, no matter what?
Mm-hmm.
By having a living will, you can let your doctors know that, yeah, maybe I don't want to be, I don't want extraordinary measures taken that put me on life support for years, those kinds of things. So having a living will is important, and you need to have the signed document with you, or have it already registered at the hospital where you're going. Now, not every doctor or hospital or medical provider will actually accept that, but at least that gives you and whoever is gives the doctors and your power of attorney, or the person who's making those medical decisions, have some idea of what your wishes are, because otherwise the doctors are going to do everything they can to save you.
Yep.
So, and then having a power of attorney, and most people don't think about powers of attorney as needing 2 of them. They need to be different documents. Your healthcare provider, you have to have a specific healthcare power of attorney for someone who's going to make medical decisions for you if you can't make them yourself. And this can be a family member, or it could be a third party.
Okay.
You can make those choices. It doesn't have to be your spouse or ex-husband, or your children. You can give that healthcare power of attorney to someone else who maybe knows more.
Good. Good to know.
And then the financial power of attorney is the
Ooh,
one that
yeah.
you need to have for all the bills
Mm-hmm.
to do with your estate if you pass. All of that kind of information is really important. So you need two different documents. That way, your healthcare power, your children can't bump you off to get your money because you've got two different people
Yep.
that are managing those powers of attorney. So those are really the very basic ones, but there's a lot of other ones too. For example, you can have a revocable trust, which means that you put all of your financial information into a trust, your cars, your house, whatever, so
Okay.
that when you pass, it goes on to whoever you've designated without having to go through probate. There's rules that are associated with that, but you can always get it back. That's what the revocable means. You can always
Okay.
dissolve it. If you've been sick, you might have a do not resuscitate order, which is called a DNR. So if you have cancer or you have an incurable
Yes.
disease, you might have that, but understand that DNR has to be has to be signed by a physician and witness. So it's not just something, and you have to have the physical paper, signed paper with your, it's
Yeah.
for the
Every time I
emergency.
go to the hospital, they offer me one of those sheets and paperwork. Yes.
Yep.
And the problem is, guess what? I don't even know where I put it. See?
Yep.
See?
That's why you need to keep it organized.
Hmm. So we
So
need
you
you.
might, yeah. So you might have deeds on your houses or your cars. Um, who do you want to have information about your medical treatment? So that's what the HIPAA or information is. That's the Portable Healthcare Information Act. Um, all of your accounts you need to go to your banks and your savings accounts and do what's called a pod or a pay upon death.
Hmm.
So you need to have that form signed or at least authorized for the person. If they're on your account, that's different. And then there's transfer upon death that you might have to use at the motor vehicles to transfer a car or something like that. And all of your digital assets, like all the passwords, all of the information that you have, all of that information needs to go to
Yep.
somebody else. And then we call that a digital assets
Okay.
inventory. So that's the important thing. And then maybe you have some personal property that you've got. So for example, my mother collected Hummels.
Oh
And
my goodness, my aunt does too. I love them. They remind
she
me of them.
Yeah,
Oh,
my mother must have had 500 of
oh my
them.
goodness, what a
And
collection.
yes, and so when she died, we had to figure out what to do with all of those things that she had. And fortunately, she had made a note that said, "I want these to go to these particular people." So understanding, you have a collection, you have artwork, you have jewelry, you have cars, you have all kinds of property that doesn't necessarily fit in the will, but what you can do is do a personal property
Okay.
memorandum that says, okay, I want these people to get this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite bowl goes to Jamie. Yeah. What
Aw.
something along those lines. So it's not always bad things, but there's a lot of things to keep in mind, especially when you're considering end of life.
All right,
So,
thank you. Good reminders. And
so
let's remind everyone how we contact you while we're talking.
yeah, I'm Deb Miller. My number is 317-399-9905. I'm the life organizer coach at life.coach at organizercoach.com.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
Continue. Go ahead.
Well, and people say, well, that's a lot of information to get together. And so a lot of times people really need some help organizing that information. Just you don't know where to start, you don't know how to do it, all of that kind of thing. I think about it kind of goes back to going to the gym. There's all of the stuff you can do, but what do you do in what order and what makes the most sense? So that's why I say people really could use some coaching to get it done. It also helps you keep on track.
Mm-hmm.
I'm much more accountable when I have to call somebody and say, yeah, I didn't do that. I didn't get it done. I'm liable to be more accountable and get things accomplished if I have somebody who's on the other side saying, okay, this week we're going to do this, and guide you along the process. So I have coaching packages that I help people with. And sometimes people just need a strategy session, need to know what they need to do in what order. And that's where the paperwork power hour comes in play. Because what I can do is sit with you and say, okay, you saw that list of paperwork and the 5 things you need. Well, maybe you just need to know how to get to it and what kinds of things to organize. And then I offer a Life Organizer Masterclass for people who want some coaching over a period of time. So it could be 5 weeks, it could be 6 weeks, whatever works for you. And it's basically, I walk you through the whole process. We talk about ways to reduce stress and anxiety from all of the stress you might have about even thinking about it. Just some people break out in hives when they look at their office and their
Yep.
desk and they see piles and piles of paper.
Me.
How do you start? Where do you go? How do you get going with that kind of stuff? And then, of course, I have my corporate caregiver workshops where I can go into an organization that maybe has a plan that they offer their employees, and we can do a workshop and help them get started in organizing all of their information. So really, it's My Life Organizer is the book. It's a workbook, so you can fill it out with all the information that you need to keep track of. And it's available on Amazon. Or you can send me a note at life.coach@lifeorganizercoach.com. How's that?
I think it's perfect. Always. Well, hold on. For people listening out there, we're not going anywhere. We still have more time with Deb Miller. We're just taking a quick little break here. She's here helping us with her guide, with her grab and go packet. By the way, the whole grab and go, what does that consist of that someone can take advantage of with the Life Organizer coach who we're speaking to? Tell
Yeah,
us.
a grab and go system is where you organize all of your paperwork, all of the important information that you would need in case there was an emergency. So an example would be if there's a fire in your house. You have about 3 minutes to leave your house. There's so many plastics and toxic materials in our houses these days that we used to be able to, 15 minutes we could get out. Now it's about 3 before the fumes overwhelm us all. So having all of your important paperwork, your passwords, your information about your house and your cars and your utilities and your insurance and all of that information tucked into a zippered bag that you can just take with you and go in an emergency is really important. You can keep it in your car. You can keep it by the front door as you go out the door, or by your garage door if you go out the garage all the time. So it's just a way to get started, to get organized. And I use my book, the My Life Organizer, to help me as a checklist and a table of contents of things to go through and figure out what I need to include in my grab and go binder.
All right, well, let's continue down the path of the 5 things that we need. And just to recap a little bit, we got the guardianship documents, the last will and testament, the live-in will, right? We talked about that, the advance directive, and then let's continue with the durable healthcare power of attorney and durable financial power of attorney, right?
Absolutely. You can't do one without the, you should have both of those kinds of things. Another thing to keep in mind is you know, it's important to scan your documents in to a thumb drive so that you can take them with you or put them in a lockbox or a safe deposit box somewhere. That could be easily accomplished once you've gathered everything up. And then you want to keep track of all of that information. So you want to put it somewhere that's important, so that you can grab it. You can keep it in your purse. You can keep it on a key ring somewhere. One thing I like to do too is videotape my house, all of the rooms, all of the closets, all of the drawers, everything that's important to you. Lay the jewelry out on the table and take pictures of it with rulers and stuff like that. And you can keep that on a thumb drive where you can have access to that information to prove that you owned it. The insurance companies like pictures, they like receipts, they like all of that kind of stuff for the things that you buy that are important. So having made copies of that information and put it on a thumb drive or a small drive that you can take with you or keep somewhere close at hand. I have probably 15 of these in different places. And this is a thumb drive. It's just a USB drive that you put your information on. And you can download stuff from your phones if you make videos of your house and the contents. All can be shared.
Great. Well, also, again, we talked a little bit about, I want to ask about the digital aspect of your work too, which I know is something that's big today. Everyone's going digital, right, with all their stuff.
Yeah, just be careful when you put your information out on the internet. One thing you want to do is you want to find a location that encrypts the information. So don't just save your passwords out or on your computer. If somebody hacks into your computer, they can get to the file. I use a system called LastPass, and that allows me to upload documents. It allows me to upload and keeps all of my passwords in an encrypted format on the internet so that just not everybody can get to them. There are a lot of services that do that. Just you need to be careful in this day and age about what you share and who you share it with and when you share it. And that's part of the whole process of getting your paperwork organized and knowing where to put it and how to keep it safe.
Awesome. Well, we have just 2 minutes left today, Deb. I know this has been a great show. You're giving us very important, facts. Can I just get a testimonial of someone that you've helped recently? One of your clients. What do they say about you and your work?
I have a client that comes back to me every few weeks. I started out helping her mother who was in a nursing home.
Wow.
And she was having trouble getting the paperwork filed with the insurance companies. And she lost her coverage twice because she neglected to send in the proper paperwork. And all it required was somebody to put the name of it was a VA benefit. So she had to put the name of the veteran at the top with a certain code, and she had to mail it in. That's all she had to do. But she did it 3 times and lost benefits and had to go through the whole process of reapplying and all that kind of stuff. So it was a mess. But she comes back to me every once in a while, and we go through the next stage of paperwork that she needs to collect. She's always been very grateful for the help, just knowing that there's somebody there who can walk her through the process and help her figure it out.
Beautiful. Well, we appreciate your time, your effort, your energy. And if someone's interested in talking to you, connecting with you, and of course, to get the grab and go system, how do we do so?
You go to lifeorganizercoach.com. There's a place to sign up for a free consultation. You can talk to me for 30 minutes and see if we're a fit. you can also call me at 317-399-9905 or email me at life.coach@lifeorganizercoach.com.
Perfect. Thank you again, Deb. We'll talk soon. Have a great day and a good
Take
vacation
care.
too. Bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.